Good morning, everybody, and welcome to UK and International Health Coaching Association's Find Your Healthy Week. This morning, I have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Ollie Hart to talk to you about how he finds his healthy and how his organisation helps others find their healthy. So, Ollie, take it away. There are obviously a number of listeners this morning who won't know you. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Oh, thanks, Isabella. Lovely to be here. So I'm a GP by background, worked as over 20 years as a GP partner in Sheffield. I'm also very interested in how people look after themselves, because as a GP, what I've learned is that the most important factor in keeping you healthy and well is what you manage to do for yourself. I do recognize often that's really difficult, and that's why I got very interested in coaching, because it's a way that us as healthcare professionals can, I think, best support people to look after themselves and use lots of skills and techniques that supplement what we do as doctors.
Thanks, Ollie. Well, you know, there's a lot of discussion these days. Every time you look at social media or indeed read a newspaper, if you still read newspapers, there's an awful lot being said about how we all need to be more proactive about improving our health and well-being. Lots of talk about being the architects of our own health and the
Mm.
experts in our own life and all of that kind of stuff. And it's wonderful to see it spreading throughout every sector in society, really. So it's not just those of us in health that are talking about it, but those in the physical activity sector, in employment, in communities, in workplaces, and hopefully, as we go forward in places of education, you know, for the young people to start really being more proactive about their health. So, Ollie, could you describe what you do to find your
Mm.
own healthy?
Yeah, it's really interesting when you make it personal, because actually what I recognize in myself that it's not so easy to always keep yourself healthy, is it? So for instance, I'm a runner. I love running. It's one of the things I really enjoy. It gives me sort of mental relief and it keeps me fit. But sometimes it's really hard to run, and I tend to go running with a friend, and we tend to meet at 7 o'clock in the morning. And what I've recognized is that if I don't plan to meet with Jay at 7 o'clock, and the alarm goes off at 10 to 7, I look out the window, I don't get out of bed. I don't go running, even though I love it. I need that kind of commitment to meeting up with somebody else. And if I know Jay's going to be outside the door in 10 minutes time, I get out of bed, I get my running stuff on, and 100% of the time I get out the door with him. And that just sort of illustrates to me that, although we know things are good for us, often we need to sort of understand what's going to work for us and help make it easier and help motivate us. So for me, it's having a friend. Sometimes people want events that kind of, kind of something to aim for. Sometimes, it's things like park run or being part of a running club that motivate you. So I think my sort of understanding over my life and my career is that it's often not about telling people what to do or giving them advice about things they should do, or even giving them a range of things to choose from. Coaching and the support we can offer that really works is about understanding what's going to work for different people, understanding what's going on in their world, what their context is, and being skillful and clever enough to avoid telling them what to do, but to find out what will work for you. So for me, having the commitment, having planned somebody else to go running with early in the morning is always what works for me, but it wouldn't work for somebody else.
That's actually a great tip. There is the planning and the being intentional about it and finding a buddy and all the things that we're kind of not doing anymore in life. You know, we kind of go through life reacting to things that happen all around us, and very rarely do we actually make the commitment to be intentional about our health and our lifestyles. And
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
and that is what a good coach does, Isabella, isn't it? Is that in that moment at 10 to 7 when my alarm goes off and I'm tempted to stay in bed because it's warm and I don't get out, it's very hard to convince yourself. But if you plan in advance, if you take that effort to think about what's likely to happen and what's going on, Steve Peters talks about overcoming your chimp, doesn't he? And other people talk
yeah.
about other ways of sort of, planning habits in and making sure that you've made it easy for yourself to do the stuff that you want to do, but in the moment it's often really hard.
It is, isn't it? And it's that thing about having strategies, Ollie, when the challenges come. As you say, you might have planned it, but what about when you wake up, it's raining? There is time to phone your buddy and say, do you know what? I can't make it this morning. Now, what kind of self-talk would you recommend that people might engage in to overcome that challenge and resistance when they really want to do something, but they're just about to self-sabotage?
Yeah, well, I think that what we know actually is it's very hard to do it in the moment. Our emotional brains take over our sort of almost like our comfort blanket we wrap around ourselves. So it's actually really hard in the moment. You've got to have a massive amount of willpower. And I
Mm.
think this is where the sort of coaching approach comes in, is that you plan ahead. You think about how you can build habits in, how you can make it easy for yourself. And then if I turn it away from myself towards perhaps someone living with type 2 diabetes, I can think of many people we've coached recently. And one particular story, just think so it takes time for people to feel confident and trust you. And there was a lady really struggling to control her sugar levels. She knew all the dietary things. She knew what it was that put her sugar up. But it took her a while before she trusted us enough to reveal that what was really going on was that after 10 o'clock at night, when she felt lonely and on her own, she would resort to binge eating and comfort eating. And in fact, she often didn't even realize she was doing it. But it took a little while before she trusted her coach enough to kind of reveal that. And then it allowed the coach to not tell her what to do, but start to work with her around what could be alternatives, what sort of things could work for you. The coach doesn't know, but the person does. And I think that's where coaching techniques are so powerful in helping people to set up realistic chances of doing the things that we know will help them.
Thank you. That again, that's great insight into the role of a health coach, which I know many that might be listening to this little conversation may not be clear about what a health coach is. And that's the whole point, isn't it, Ollie, that health coaches don't tell people what to do. They don't make recommendations. They can have a conversation and explore options and what that client or their patient, if they're working within the NHS, what they're open to, what they might feel like doing. But it's the control, the decision making is they're in the driving seat. The patient or the client is in the driving seat, and I think that's what makes it so powerful. As a modality to support behaviour change, that uh, clients at the end of that conversation feel more and more empowered and self-empowered actually to make the right decisions for them. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's what drew me into it as a doctor. I think over the years, I've recognized, at the NHS, we're really good at sort of understanding people's, health context and their blood results, and we understand what sort of things might help them, but we're not particularly good at the techniques of changing human behavior and understanding what's going to work for people. We believe that by telling people what to do, we'll be doing them a service. But very often, actually, it's not a lack of information that's really holding people back. It's the skill set to help them understand, a plan that's going to work for them. And very often that will be around, building enough trust that people will open up with you and really have a proper look at what's going on for them. So it's a lot of skills. And I think it works in the NHS, it works really well alongside the medical and the health skills that we have. But they need to be complementary. And that's why I went into teaching and training people about coaching, is because I believe it's a really good complementary skill alongside the medical and health knowledge that we often have.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. And let me take this opportunity of congratulating you and your colleagues at Peak Health on what you do, because I know that you are a facilitator for many hundreds, many thousands of people to be finding their healthy through the coaches that you train and send back into the NHS to do their very best for everyone else. So maybe we could just conclude by turning back to your finding you're healthy. If running is something that somebody might be interested in, but is a little bit scared to try, and where will they go? And will they look a fool? And will they even be able to do it? And what if they've got some mobility issues? Have you got any suggestions on some of the thoughts that they might bring to that decision of just going for it.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, I recognize running's not for everybody at all. I'm a massive fan of parkrun. I've been very involved in it for the last 10 years at least, but I absolutely know it's not for everybody. So I think the key to people is to find out your why and what really interests you. And you do often find that some people have really enjoyed running in the past, or there's something about being outside or getting their body moving that really appeals for them. So if you're going to be a runner, you've got to identify with it and it be your thing. But assuming that it is, and that you're trying to rediscover that joy, that love you had of having the adrenaline pumping and your endorphins flowing, I suppose the things that really help for me are thinking about your week and thinking about what's more like to make it happen for me. So, you need to have the kit, you need to have the time, you need to have a little bit of a plan in your head. Like I say, for me, it's knowing that I've got a friend that will be waiting outside the door at 7 in the morning that really works for me, but it'll be different for everybody. So if you can do it yourself, wonderful. If you can do it with a friend, if you do it with a coach to help you plan out what's going to work for you, in my experience, that really helps to make it more likely to happen.
Oh, thank you for that. Well, speaking personally, I took an opportunity last year of joining my local park run. And
Mm,
I can't run. I have knee arthritis, which, it is not a good idea to try running with that. But I did walk, and I went along with a friend, and it was absolutely wonderful. It was very inspirational. My friend finished up actually joining the park run as a runner.
yeah.
And I don't go every week, but I do go regularly, and I really love it. Great community. Everybody's made very welcome.
Well, that's the thing about it, isn't it? I mean, I'm actually one of the health and wellbeing ambassadors of Parkrun, and I know that Parkrun's been celebrating the fact that across the world, Parkrun times have been getting slower because they've been encouraging people to come and walk. In fact, Part Walk is a real thing. They didn't want to change the whole name, but if they could, it probably would be Part Run and Part Walk, and also Part Volunteer. The chance to go along and join in the community by doing even the tiniest of things. Sometimes people just sort in the tokens at the end. Sometimes people are timers. Sometimes people are tail end walkers, or they're part of explaining where the course is. There's all sorts of roles that people can take that make them feel part of that community. And again, for a lot of people, being part of a community is a really important motivator.
Oh, yes, absolutely agree. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Ollie. Thank you for all the wonderful work you do. Thank you for being an inspiration this morning to people who are thinking about what can they do. And it's wonderful to see a GP be so encouraging to people making their own decisions and really just getting going. So what I can say to you, Ollie, is keep on keeping on that, man, because people need you. We all need you, and we need many, many more doctors like you who are.
Thanks, Isabella. I appreciate that. And I really appreciate you championing health coaching. I think it's a very important culture for our whole society. I think, having that mindset where we support each other without just telling people what to do, we listen to them and we discover what it is that's going to work for them, and we encourage and support them. I think that's such an important culture. And I think it's one that we both believe is going to change our society if we can get people on board with that.
We will. I think we will, and I think with working together, we're stronger together. And I know we both believe in that. So thank you, Ollie. And